forests of Bavaria, Germany, stood an isolated farmhouse, far from any neighbors.
It was called Hinterkaifeck, a quiet, remote place that would soon become one of the most disturbing unsolved cases in history.
The Gruber family lived there. A mother, her children, and their maid. They led simple lives, far from the eyes of the outside world. But strange things had already begun happening on the farm.
Andreas Gruber, the head of the household, started noticing unusual footprints in the snow, leading to the barn, but never leaving. The footprints appeared again and again. Someone was coming to the farm at night and staying hidden. The family began hearing strange noises coming from the attic. Footsteps. Movement. As if someone was living above them. At night, they would sit in silence, listening. The creaking sounds from above never stopped. Andreas tried to seal the attic door shut. He nailed it closed, hoping whatever was up there would stay out. He even nailed the windows and doors more securely at night. But the fear in the house only grew. The night before the murders, the family sat inside, tense and quiet. They could feel that something was terribly wrong. Someone had been hiding in the barn, watching the farmhouse for days. On that cold March night in 1922, the entire family was murdered inside their home. But the killer did not leave after the crime. 4 days passed before anyone realized something was wrong.
When neighbors finally checked on the family, they made a horrifying discovery.
Police arrived and began searching the old farmhouse for clues. The crime scene was brutal. The killer had used a farming tool and had taken their time. Nothing made sense. News of the murders spread quickly across Germany. The entire country was shocked. Just days before the murders, a new maid named Maria had arrived at the farm. She had settled into her room, unaware of the danger that was already inside the house. On her first day, she worked in the kitchen with the mother, smiling, happy, and completely unaware. The previous maid had left weeks earlier. She had been terrified of the house and warned others to stay away. The police continued their investigation, but the killer had left almost no trace. Over time, The old farm was left abandoned. The buildings slowly fell into ruin.
The case was never solved. No one was ever convicted.
To this day, no one knows who entered that farmhouse or why they stayed. Even now, more than 100 years later, the land where Hinterkaifeck once stood remains quiet and empty. But the questions have never gone away. Someone had been living in the attic, right above the family's heads. Andreas had seen the signs. He knew something was wrong, but he didn't know how close the danger really was. Even the family dog could sense it. It would bark toward the barn, then suddenly fall silent in fear.
At night, the sound of footsteps above them became impossible to ignore.
Andreas tried everything to keep them safe. He boarded up doors. He sealed off rooms. But it wasn't enough. When police finally searched the house, they found signs that someone had been living there, even after the murders. The killer had stayed inside the farmhouse with the bodies for several days. Detectives spent days going through every piece of evidence they could find. They sat for hours, studying old case files and notes, trying to understand what had really happened. Villagers who knew the family were terrified. If it could happen to them, it could happen to anyone. Police notes from the time show how confused investigators were. There were no signs of forced entry, no clear motive. Officers stood outside in the snow for days, trying to understand what had happened inside those walls. The footprints in the snow remained one of the biggest mysteries. They led to the barn, but never away from it. In nearby villages, people gathered in taverns, whispering about the murders. Fear spread quickly. Newspapers across Germany covered the story. Headlines called it one of the most brutal crimes in years. For weeks, people looked at their neighbors differently. Trust had been broken. The crime scene photos told a terrifying story. The killer had moved the bodies and had taken their time. After days of searching, the police left with more questions than answers. The case was already going cold. The farm stood empty for months. No one wanted to go near it. Years later, the buildings were still there, rotting slowly in silence. The barn, where some of the bodies were found, remained standing, almost untouched. Old farming tools still lay inside. covered in dust and time. The house itself slowly fell apart. Windows broke. Doors hung open. Nature began to take it back.
The snow continued to fall on the abandoned property, year after year. The world moved on, but the mystery remained. The Gruber family faded into history. Their faces exist only in old photographs now. Today, nothing remains of the farm. Only fields and trees mark where it once stood.
People still visit the area, drawn by the dark story. But the land stays quiet. Wind moves through the empty spaces where the house once stood. The silence is heavy. Over 100 years have passed, and still no one knows who did it. The fog rolls in, just like it did back then, slowly covering everything. Over 100 years later, the Hinterkaifeck murders remain unsolved.